Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Friday, the 8th of Jumadul Akhirah 1445, corresponding with the English date 22nd of December 2023. Hazrat Wala has the Taqdeer Kitab open in front of him, and he opens up to some article there saying that, meaning that I have read this out maybe many times in the past. However, the famous Arabic saying states, إِذَا تَكَرَّرَ تَقَرَّرَ, that when something is repeated over and over again, then it becomes established. बार बार होती है उसकी तकरार तो साबित हो जाती है. So when it is repeated, then it becomes entrenched, established, firmly rooted. It is a wonderful kitab regarding which Hazrat Haji Imdadullah said, Ashraf Ali, translate this kitab, it will be of great benefit to the people. He done such a marvelous job on the translation that the most senior at that time in Darul Uloom Deoband said that Mauli Ashraf Ali ही ऐसे tarjuma kar sakte the. It is Ashraf Ali, Mauli Ashraf Ali only could have done a tarjuma of this caliber and this level. Reading then from the kitab and quoting the text there, Hazrat Wala says that the Ahle Asbab, people who use the means here in this dunya, they definitely are deeply in need of two things: ilm and taqwa, knowledge and piety. By means of knowledge, a person will able to walk the path, and by means of taqwa, a person will be able to protect himself from difficulties and calamities. Or the list then goes on. So what ilm, you'll understand the correct path, and what taqwa, you will able to walk that path correctly. Now we all passing through that of ilm. We are all in the same category here, where we need to adopt that of ilm and taqwa. So it could greatly be possible that by means of ilm, a person takes the path. However, while treading that path, it is greatly also possible that he may err and falter, and he would then start giving interpretation. So don't give then interpretation, rather accept that which is correct. So a person, his need for knowledge is that he will understand by means of it the halal and the haram, and taqwa will protect him from committing sins. Now his need for knowledge is because he needs it for the ahkam that are related to that of transactions, a trade, commerce, bay' salam and bay' sarf, and other related aspects as well, together with that which are from the ahkam which are incumbent, necessary upon him, the wajibat and the fara'is that are stipulated for him. So here in the text, the author then goes on to saying that when a person intends to travel and make a safar, then number one, he should first and foremost put his intention firmly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before he leaves his house, upon this point that he would forgive anybody who gives him grief or wrongs him, because the marketplace is a place of argument and chit-chat talk. It is for that reason that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned, أَيَعْجِزُ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَكُونَ كَأَبِي ضَمْضَمٍ, that does one of you actually find himself helpless of being like Abu Zamzam? Why can't you be like Abu Damdam? Why can't you? His noble habit was that when he would leave the house, he would recite and say, Allahumma, O Allah, inni tasaddaqtu bi'irdi ala al-muslimin. I have given my honor in charity to the Muslims. Therefore, after that, if anybody troubled him, exchanged some words with him, was rude, vulgar, or swore at him, he would never answer to that in reply. So, we're reading a book on tasawwuf, but it seems that we are learning the ahkam of ma la budda min. So, we learn from this here, it is not two separate. Rather, the zahir is in need of the batin and the batin is in need of the zahir. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb used to say quite often, and he would give the example of zahir and batin using the example of a banana, speaking about the actual fruit which is hidden behind the peel and the skin. I mean, that's the essence. But he would go on to say that there is a great need for the peel and the covering as well. Without it, the pulp or the original fruit cannot stay protected. Rather, after a little while, flies will come and sit on it. Now, Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of also carrying out the zahiri amal. Now, do you think that wudu is something so simple and ordinary? No, it's very, very great. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to make so much of ihtimam when he would carry out wudu. Rather, it would take him quite some time to actually complete his wudu. And he would also go on to say, Ke jaisa wudu, waisa namaz. According to your wudu, that will be the outcome of your salat. The level of your wudu would actually lead to the level of your salat. Now listen to this ibarat and text as well. Al-wudu'u al-infisalu anil khalq was salatu al-ittisalu bil-haq. Now isn't that wonderful? That wudu in essence is to distance yourself from the makhluk, and salat in essence is to join with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we're speaking about leaving the house and what are the etiquettes. So the point number 2 which they are mentioning here is that it is suitable, rather recommended, that a person makes wudu and performs salat before leading, and he should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for peace in his going out, because he does not know what is actually going to happen. Now, and we see that some people just left the house and then they were khatam, meaning they had then passed away. Hazrat Maulana Abrarul Haq used to prescribe the Ayatul Kursi and the 3 Quls, Surah Falaq, Surah Nas and Surah Ikhlas. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to speak also and about these du'as, and he would also go on to say that a person while going, shaitan will then make him forget, due to which he will be negligent and he will not read these simple du'as. So we should ask for refuge and protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the different trials, tribulations and tests. It's greatly possible that while you are in your home, that or in your madrasa or in your college, that you may become vulnerable, or there would be someone there that would then challenge you by his evil habits or whatever he has, he wants to pass over to you. Now, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to say that they get great pleasure. उनको शर ही में मजा आता है. They actually get a great pleasure and happiness and joy out of this wickedness and mischievousness, corruption in their personality and in their nature. Rather, fasad, this corruption and this mischief is actually their ghiza, and they cannot get peace without it. It is their sustenance. Now, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab had much experience in all these topics, and he would pass over these articles to the great luminaries and ulama who would then come and sit with him. So a person who leaves his house and is going to the marketplace is like a person who is going into the battlefield. Therefore, it is suitable for a Muslim that he wears and he dons himself with the armor of taking the protection of Allah and putting trust in Him. By doing that there, he would be protected from the arrows of the enemies. وَمَن يَعْتَصِم بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ هُدِيَ إِلَىٰ صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And who seeks protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he is guided to the straight path. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever puts his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala suffices him. The next point there, it is suitable that when a person leaves his home, that he should hand over his family, his house, and everything there, his assets, whatever it may be, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah ta'ala is most deserving of protecting all of this. And at that time he should remember the verse of the Quran Majid where Allah ta'ala says, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. That Allah ta'ala is the best of protectors and He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. Now, you know, when Saeed used to leave back in the day, then it used to be early in the morning, and I would then recite loudly, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Said he could also listen and pick that up, learn it from me. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to really be elated and used to get great pleasure from quoting these different du'as. Another du'a, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions, Allahumma anta sahibu fi safar. Oh Allah, you are my companion in journey. Wal khalifatu fil ahl. And my deputy regarding my family. And when he is bidding them farewell, it is more appropriate. When he is bidding them farewell, he should hand them over to Allah, because if he does that, then he would find them in the way that he loves and in the way that they would love to be found. In the way that they would love to be found. Now, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, looking at these du'as, he would then go on to say that, now tell me about these du'as. Can we even think of a du'a like this here? It is the shan of a Nabi that he has taught us these great du'as. Now, in saying Bismillah, what is so difficult? Kya mushkil hai? What's so difficult in that? Now, from amongst these great people, one of them undertook a journey while his wife was expecting. So when he left, he said, Oh Allah, I hand over to you what is in her womb. Nevertheless, in his absence, his wife then passed away. And when he returned from his safar, when he asked about her, he was told that she passed away in pregnancy. Nevertheless, that night he seen a Noor in the direction of the Qabristan, and he went in that direction and in those footsteps, and he is in the Qabristan, and to his surprise he sees a child drinking from the mother's milk there. At that time a caller from the unseen shouts out and saying, Oh certain person, that if you had handed over your wife to us just as you have handed over the child to us, you would have most definitely found her. Another point also is that it is mustahab for the person who is leaving his home that he recites the dua, Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Because this brings depression and a severe blow to the shaitan. Now what's so difficult about that? But even that is not achieved. Now towards the end, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb left all academic discussions and this and that and the other, and he focused so much on just these du'as and these sunnats of entering the toilet, leaving the toilet, the du'as on different occasions. And he would stress on that so much at the time of going to bed. Recite Ayatul Kursi. Now in Nisabul Ihtisab, it is a kitab of a great scholar, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb has written on that as well. Now another point is, when a person leaves his home, he should think about commanding that which is good and prohibiting from that which is unbecoming and evil, and he should make that actually a thanksgiving to the ni'mats, the ni'mat of strength and the ni'mat of taqwa which Allah Ta'ala had bestowed him with. And he should remember what Allah Ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, الَّذِينَ إِن مَّكَّنَّاهُمْ, those who have given authority on earth. They establish salat, they give zakat, they command that which is good and they prohibit that which is evil. So whoever Allah Ta'ala has given the strength of carrying out Amar bil Ma'ruf, commanding good and prohibiting from evil, in such a way that in carrying out and executing that, commanding good and prohibiting evil, he does not bring harm upon himself, his honor or his wealth, then such a person would then be counted from amongst those who have been granted authority on earth. And it will be necessary for him now to do Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. And if he cannot do that, commanding good and prohibiting that which is evil, except that harm comes his way, or rather this is his overpowering thought that some harm will come his way at that time or later on, then it will no longer be wajib on him to carry out Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Rather, to turn away at that time from that particular injunction would be totally jaiz for him. So here even the Sharia teaches us i'tidal and moderation. I was in another country and somebody actually brought this to my notice that people come to the shops and then they would buy pan and then they would go on spitting around here and there and all over the show, which was absolutely it was understood to be something very, very despicable and unbecoming, more in that country. Now Hazrat Wala actually quotes that there because he's going through that point that when a person leaves his house, he should walk with peace and with honor, because Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. The servants of the most merciful Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala are those who walk upon the earth with humility. And that is not specific for walking only, rather the holistic meaning there is that all a person's af'al should be coupled with that of peace and that of honor, tathabbut, waqar. So waqar ke saath rehna, stay with honor. So in the top point we just read there about Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, the Shariat doesn't tell you to just unnecessarily give your life like that. In fact, that's the great balance that we just discussed there about Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar that the Shariat has taken into consideration. Nevertheless, we're speaking about waqar and walking with honor. Allah Ta'ala says, فَاسْعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, hasten towards the remembrance of Allah. Here also, immediately thereafter, what is stated and what is mentioned, it is that of honor and in a respectable and dignified manner. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb used to say when somebody would come, or he would tell us that listen, the person would come and then he would start talking, and in all of that so much of nuqsan would come to me. In that time I could have recited so many ayat. Yes, if it is necessary, talk, but leave out all the futile and the useless. In the next point, it is suitable that a person who is leaving his home, he should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the marketplace. These days we hardly leave our home and we are already in the marketplace and in the bazaars. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned, Dhakirullahi fil ghafilina kal muqatili bain al farrin. The one who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amongst the negligent is like that person who fights what complete steadfastness amongst all those who are fleeing from the battlefield. And another hadith, Dhakirullahi fi suq kal hayyi bain al mauta. The one who remembers Allah in the marketplace is like a living person amongst the dead. Amongst the dead. And it is narrated from amongst some of the Salaf, the pious predecessors, that they would mount their conveyance and they would come to the marketplace and they would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they would return, and nothing would take them out of their homes. Nothing would take them out of their homes except that they could go into the marketplace and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it is mentioned in Kitabul Azkar regarding a person or a Sahabi who would go into the marketplace with no need whatsoever other than that of salam. Another point also is that when a person is in the marketplace, then he should not busy himself in trade and commerce and business in such a manner that it prevents him to stand up for salat and reading salat with jamaat. Because if he does that, then the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then comes on him, and barakat is snatched away from his earnings. And more than that, he should feel ashamed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees him busy with regards to his own needs, as opposed being busy with regard to the hukuk and to the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is narrated from the Salaf that one of them was in his workshop and he had his hammer there. He lifted it up and threw it behind his hand, behind his shoulder, holding that hammer, and he was then about to follow through and strike it onto the steel or whatever he was making there. At that time, فَسَمِعَ الْمُؤَذِّنِ, he heard the mu'adhin, meaning the adhan being called out. Immediately he dropped that hammer behind him, so that would not be a means of him being occupied after being called to the obedience of his Rabb Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he should also remember what at the time of the mu'adhin, when the mu'adhin calls out the adhan, Ya qawmana ajibu da'i Allah, that, O our people, answer the caller of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in Madarijus Salikin, Ibn Qayyim has mentioned about some person saying that I'm holding in the spiritual realm the leg of the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that time, tell me if the adhan goes, what should I do? He asks an Arif. The Arif told him at that time that Ajib da'i Allah, you should answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and thereafter, once you have fulfilled your duty to Allah, if you then so wish to, then you may continue going into that spiritual state, meaning holding the leg of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now so many things has been mentioned here. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb was speaking about just like how the ulama-e batin, who made so much of mehnat on the internal and the akhlaq, etc., how they had done so much tremendous work. Similarly, the external, the ulama-e zahir, done no work lesser. They done also some great tremendous work, very great work. In all of that, saying this bayan, it was this time of the morning as well, while he was giving the majlis, when he was afflicted with a stroke. Hazrat Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his house would also mend his sandals. He would assist the servant, and when adhan would be called out, he would stand up as if he did not recognize us from before. He did not even know who we are. Now let's just keep it till there. Hazrat Wala thereafter makes dua, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Hazrat Wala makes dua and asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of practicing on the sunnats which concerned muasharat and social interaction, which is from that department. Allah give us the tawfiq and hidayat of making amal on those sunnats as well. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِحُرْمَةِ سَيِّدِ النَّبِيِّ الْكَرِيمِ صلى الله عليه وسلم.